Meanwhile, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni wants all government loans to receive his personal approval before they are tabled in Parliament. He has also rejected 11 loans already tabled in Parliament as they don't add value to the economy. At least that's what he says. Now, the president says only infrastructure development in the health and education sectors should be funded by government loans. Some of the requests declined include $200 million for the construction of the Kampala-Jinja Expressway, $100 million for the Islamic Development Bank for poverty reduction, and $200 million for fiscal transfers and management. Now, Uganda's external and domestic public debt amounted to about $8.7 billion as of December 2016. Now in Kampala, we're joined by Juliet Akello, who is a policy officer at the Ugandan Debt Network, with more on this. Welcome to the show. Now, let's start with a question that's on everyone's minds. By law, can a Ugandan president direct Parliament to tell that all government loans from the country must get his personal approval? What's the law in Uganda?
Thank you, Uche. The law in Uganda invests the power to approve loans in the hands of Parliament. It is only after the Minister of Finance has has requested for a loan acquisition plan, then the Parliament can then go ahead and approve. And so the directive of the President to stop approvals of loans is something that needs to be looked into, especially its authenticity.
Now, the president did reject about 11 government loans on grounds that they do not add value to the economy. Is the president right in these assumptions?
Loan acquisition depends on considering them on a case-by-case basis. It is true and untrue. True for the fact that already we have, untrue because we already have a number of loans which are not being absorbed, and the citizens are actually requiring accountability for the loans that are underperforming, because the Auditor General by last year recorded that half of the loans are actually performing below their absorption capacity. And so it is a matter of whether these loans are important or not, but also the whole idea of accountability and absorption and utilization and management of these loans comes into question.
Now, we do know that the finance minister also says that Uganda's external and domestic public debt, it's about 33.8% of GDP. Now, he believes Uganda's public debt is sustainable. So what do you think about that?
Following reports from institutions like the Central Bank, last year around June in 2016, the Central Bank gave a report that Uganda's debt is about 52% of GDP, including undisbursed commitments. And so, given that kind of figure, we think that Uganda's debt is not very sustainable, especially considering the rate at which government is borrowing. Early this year, the IMF also noted that the vulnerabilities for debt distress have increased. And by May, the same institution, IMF, also noted that there are varying reports, there are inconsistencies in debt statistics, which really need to be addressed, because then if we have varying reports on debt stock, then it becomes very difficult to deal with. And so other citizens believe that Uganda's debt is unsustainable because of the rate at which it is being acquired, but then also because of the fact that there are these varying reports, which makes it very difficult for analysis.
Now, what has been the response to this news that the president is seeking for personal approval in Uganda? What do Ugandans think about this move?
Now, the directive, the goodwill of the president, especially in a bid to curb down public debt rise, is welcome. However, how it is being done is questionable, because with issues of accountability pending, especially on the loans that are yet that are being implemented right now, it is something that Ugandans would wish to have accountability on. However, it is a good directive, but the authenticity of its implementation is where Ugandans have an issue with. But then also we note that if Parliament goes ahead to implement the directive of the President, that is also a litmus test on their own performance.
Well, quite interesting. Many thanks for joining us. Julieta Kello joining us there in Kampala from the Uganda Debt Network.